If Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief isn't your only source of Greek knowledge, then you probably know that Greek mythology isn't exactly what you'd call kid-friendly. There's plenty of death, despair, extramarital flings, and drinking, so you can understand when the family-friendly Disney decided to take a shot at it with 1997's Hercules, they'd have to take a few liberties to swing that G rating. In case you missed some of the hidden messages and things from the series, we've got you covered. First up, no happily ever after in the actual myth. So Disney's Hercules showed the god of thunder, aka Zeus, in a loving and totally healthy relationship with Hera. Let us tell you straight off the bat that there's no such thing as a healthy relationship in Greek mythology. Zeus actually has quite the reputation for cheating on his wife with an extensive list of women. But of course, the studio couldn't show Zeus as a lying, cheating god given their main target audience, so they changed the whole narrative and gave us a one-woman god. But wait, there's more. Hercules wasn't even their son. Well, technically he just wasn't Hera's son. Zeus was totally his dad. Remember the list of women we were talking about earlier? Yeah, so Hercules was born to one of his mortal conquests, a woman named Alcmene, and guess what? Hera knew all about it. From the string of women to the string of illegitimate children, naturally, she was pissed. Can you blame her though? Maybe not. But she did go after a poor baby to punish her husband. You heard that right. The true villain of Hercules' story wasn't Hades, it was Hera. Sorry for ruining your childhood, folks. Zeus and Hera's love story wasn't the only thing Disney tweaked. Turns out, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because Hercules wasn't a one-woman demigod, much like his old man. He actually had two wives, Megara and Deianira. So the Meg you saw in the animated flick was basically a combo of the two. And that isn't even the most shocking bit. Did you know Hercules kills Megara in the original myth? So much for a happily ever after, huh? Next, Thebes was a nod to New York City. Y'all recall the city of Thebes from Hercules? Anyone who has ever lived in the city can probably vouch for the fact that it looks a lot like the Big Apple. From the high energy and the pita bread carts on the streets to the end of the world graffiti and chariots that could trample you, everything about the place screams New York. Disney even stuck in the mother of all New York stereotypes. Remember when Hercules and his posse first came to Thebes? They almost got squashed by a chariot driver. If it wasn't for good old Phil, Hercules would have been divine meat. After saving them, he screams, "Hey, I'm walking here," like a stereotypical New Yorker. Bet you didn't catch that when you were little. There's a shadier side to the city that never sleeps, and the studio did not leave that out. They brought in the Flasher. Of course, it's a Disney flick, so the only thing behind his oversized trench coat was his sundial stock, but we all knew what they were going for. And now, the Lion King's Scar made a special appearance. Ever wonder what happened to Scar? Sure, the hyenas mauled him and everything by the end of The Lion King, but it looks like some part of him made it out intact. Confused? If you give Hercules another watch, you'll spot a scene where our demigods sporting a lion's skin. Now, this could be a nod to two things. If you're big on mythology, then the lion could be a reference to Nemean lion, one of the 12 labors Hercules had to face. But if you're a true Disney fan, you'll recognize that lion just about anywhere. The uniquely brown fur, the black mane, and the scar under the eye, it was none other than the big bad lion's Scar. At least, what's left of him anyway. If you've watched The Lion King more times than you'd care to admit, then you probably would remember Zazu's sassy remark that Scar would make a very handsome throw rug. We've got to say we agree, but it does make things a little bit morbid. If you think about it, after Scar was killed, he would have been skinned for his coat just so Hercules could parade around with it. Next was a narcissist joke just for adults. Disney's pretty clever with its historic references, but it also likes to take a dig at the insanity that was the Greek period. So remember when Hercules was born and all the gods and goddesses over at Olympus were super happy? Hermes zips through the scene and says to Zeus that he hadn't seen this much love in a room since Narcissus discovered himself. So this joke was a nod to the most narcissistic man ever, who apparently fell in love with his own reflection. Gives a whole new meaning to self-love, doesn't it? For those of you who don't know, Narcissus was a man of unmatched beauty. Like, Captain America's got nothing on him. He also had a big ego and loved no one until he saw his own reflection. Legend has it that he pined away to the point of insanity and eventually died without ever being loved. loved. And then we have the truth behind the Oedipus complex joke. Now, you might not remember this. As far as hidden messages go, this was pretty hidden. So after his date with Meg, Hercules can't stop raving about the play that they had seen and says, and then that play, that Oedipus thing, man, I thought I had problems. Anyone who's taken Psych 101 would probably link it back to the Oedipus complex. If you haven't gotten around to that yet, we've got you covered. So according to Sigmund Freud, aka the father of psychology, people experiencing this complex usually get jealous of the same-sex parent when it comes to the opposite-sex parent. Twisted, we know, but it exists alright, and apparently there's some Greek legend who inspired Freud to call it that. So, Oedipus was a dude who killed his own father, King Laius, out of jealousy, but he took over more than just his father's throne. He unknowingly, and we're gagging as we say this, married his own mother and had several children with her. We'll give you a minute to recover. Basically, when Hercules said that he wasn't as problematic as Oedipus, what he meant was, at least I didn't kill my dad and marry my mom. True, but that's a pretty low bar, don't you think? Next up, Meg's the only damsel in distress with experience. Hercules' Meg was a breath of fresh air, especially for girls who didn't like the always prim, proper, and super sweet Disney princesses. With her sassy attitude, sly remarks, and saucy personality, we totally get it. But that's not all that sets her apart. Did you know Meg's one of the few, scratch that, the only damsel in distress with experience in the dating arena? We all know just how much Disney loves the happily ever after trope, but there's a downside to that, aside from not dating, of course. Many of the characters, princesses especially, have a very optimistic, slightly naive idea of love. Not Meg though. Now she'd dated men way before Hercules came into her life. Not only that, she also had her heart broken when she was betrayed by the man she once loved. Safe to say she had a much more realistic, sometimes pessimistic, idea of love and men. Remember her quip about men when Hercules saves her from Nessus? They think no means yes, and yes means take me, I'm yours. We get you, Meg. We get you. For a Disney lead, she was a far cry from the typical doe-eyed, ready-to-fall-in-love damsels. Probably why she's so popular even today. And now for that moment between Hercules and Nessus. Speaking of saving Meg from Nessus, anyone remembers how that went down? Let's go back a little. We first saw the half-man, half-house when he was holding a very uninterested Meg after her mission from Hades went south. Hercules, being the macho hero he is, jumps in to rescue the girl and save the day. But before he springs into negotiations with the Titan, he has to figure out exactly how to address the centaur. Notice how he pauses and trails off after saying, "Excuse me." During that pause, you'll realize that he takes a moment to look down between the centaur's legs before adding "sir" to his sentence. A little edgy for a kids movie, but we doubt anyone noticed what was actually going on. Finally, one of the muses was attracted to Hercules. The musical goddesses, muses, made the whole movie ironic. They give the film a super catchy narration and spend most of their time praising Hercules for his heroic feats. But listen closely and you'll realize that one of them has a big fat crush on our demigod. Thalia focuses on his attractiveness and calls him Huncules throughout. And that about wraps up our video for today, folks. Which of these hidden messages from Hercules did you miss out on? Let us know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.